The Nintendo Switch 2 is out! I've got my hands on one for the purposes of review of making this video, and if you've seen the thumbnail, you already know where this is headed. Now, let me just start off by saying that I think that console launches have changed a lot. From being this huge moment of excitement and coming home with a haul of games and just being excited at everything, looking forward to everything, and from the PS4 onwards to now, they've become like promises of the future. They are just selling you hope that later on it will be a worthwhile purchase. And the Nintendo Switch 2 aligns with that perfectly. It also aligns with just being very iterative. It is definitely true to its name. It's a Nintendo Switch, but more. It's a more powerful and overall better Nintendo Switch, and with a price tag to accompany that. But it's also coming in at a time where customers have the least faith they've ever had in the video game industry, and where more and more customers every day are more savvy and more in tune with it as we get more careful with our spending. And the combination of these things all together really play against the Switch 2, and ultimately lead me to the conclusion that I can only in good faith recommend this console to a very small number of people, a very specific group of people, and definitely I cannot recommend it to most people. There is a lot about the Switch 2 that I just don't like. There is a lot about its software offerings. There is a lot about the console itself that I think is lacking, especially for the price point. There is a lot that I don't like about what it symbolizes for the industry and how it's kind of pushing us in a direction that I don't think is healthy for it. And despite all of that, I am very true to my word when I consider myself a reviewer, and I will be as fair as I can to this console, and I will have things to recommend about it. Chief of them all, Mario Kart World, which comes with a ton of caveats, including its price and again, a lot of the impact that this is having on the industry at large, but even beyond that comes with quite a few caveats. So hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome, and if you're not new here, welcome back. It's great to see you. This video is my initial review of the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's going to be first a review of Mario Kart World, and then that's going to tie into the console itself, the hardware of it, the rest of the software that's available for it, the potential software of the future, and how I think it sits in the overall world, the industry of games at the moment, which is probably the most damning part of the whole video. And yes, in order to do this review, I actually had to go and get myself ripped off by buying the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour thing, and that would have not been financially possible without the support of Displate, which is this video's sponsor. In case you're only vaguely aware of them or have thought about them and never bought one, Displate are metal posters that you can hang up on your walls without having to open up any weird holes and get in trouble with your landlord. And these beautiful metal posters that range from just artwork to a ton of your favorite series and a lot of your favorite games go magnet mounted to the wall and look absolutely amazing. For this video, Displate wanted me to show you the new limited edition Doom the Dark Ages diptych that they've come out with. It's designed by Christian Angel, which just sounds like the right person to take on the hordes of hell. And to me, it heavily reminds me of a lot of my favorite pieces from Renaissance artwork, just kind of brought into a modern Doom flair. And the overall experience of receiving these limited editions and opening them up and seeing just how beautiful the textured finish on them is, getting to touch the textured finish actually had me just kind of sitting there and looking at it for 10 minutes and poking at it. It was truly fantastic. And this limited edition, like a lot of the others over at Displate, is only 1,000 units. So if you like it, you better click the link down below and run and get it. You can see on my face just how surprised I was at the experience of putting this up on my wall in my living room, which I have very conveniently placed over the horribly placed hole that I had done before for the painting that used to be mounted there. And over the last 3 days, every time I walk into my living room and get to see it, I just think it looks absolutely sick. So if you're interested in this limited edition or any others, or just having really cool artwork up on your walls in a non-destructive and easy to swap manner, head over to displate.com using my link below. And clicking that link down below directly supports the channel in getting more awesome partnerships like this one. So thank you to Displate for sponsoring, and thank you for watching. Now look, I call them like I see them. I hate Mario Kart World's price. I hate what it stands for as a price increase, and a lot of things I've talked about on the channel before. I've had a lot to say about that, but if I want to judge Mario Kart World as a game, ignoring everything outside of it, I think it's a pretty good game. I spent about 8 hours playing it. I've had the opportunity to play every single track multiple different times and really get a good feel for it. Bottom line is, it's a really good game, and I personally don't think that Nintendo fumbled what is the sequel to one of the best-selling, most popular games of all time in Mario Kart 8. However, that doesn't mean that it's worth the price of admission, both its actual price of admission and the other part of it being having to buy a new console for it. But before we get there, let me start off with the positives. Mario Kart World is the Nintendo charm that people know and love. When we talk about the exceptional quality that Nintendo can put out from its first-party games, it's here. It's definitely here. It's just packed with charm and detail ideas that I do think actually help the series progress a little bit more into the future, specifically in the context of things like online lobbies and how those flow. Still has some problems with online and matchmaking and rooms and like joining together with friends, but you know, 1-2 punch of Night Rain and Mario Kart World, I guess. But its open world does matter, and it does actually influence the overall immersion of it and the kind of vibe of just hanging out in this space and getting to explore it. Some of the more specific gameplay changes, things like grinding rails and wall riding, are really cool. A lot of the overall design of the tracks I really enjoy. They follow the design trends of the DLC tracks of Mario Kart 8 more than base, actually following more on a lot of jumping and acrobatics, and now with the grinding and wall riding, some tricky, interesting routes and a lot of routes as well. And I like that a lot more than just standard knowing how to cut certain corners and a lot of drifting. I think it's more dynamic and more entertaining and makes it more engaging every single second. So it's got a pretty overall great track selection, I would say. It's got a ton of characters, of costumes to unlock, even if I wish there were more costumes for all characters. Some have none, and that kind of feels bad, especially Cow, because everybody loves Cow. But cheap supremacy. I think it's pretty obvious that it looks incredible, and it does serve as an accurate tech demo, how much we are increasing in power from the Switch 1, that this game can look the way it looks and run the way it does, especially, for example, online with 24 players and the mayhem that ensues while it technically being an open world. There's definitely a jump there, and that's apparent in a lot of the technical stuff. It brings a soundtrack that we will be listening to for many years to come, and that is just phenomenal and to the same standard as the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe soundtrack. And just from an artistic perspective, it is drop dead gorgeous a lot of the time, and that's pretty clear. But there is still a healthy amount of negative. The biggest negative that Mario Kart World suffers from is the existence of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now look, I feel like this is a bit of a bigger conversation, but the gist of it is that we're entering a world of video games where a lot of games are not just games, they're also platforms. Some of that more literal than others with things like Roblox or Fortnite, but think of something like Monster Hunter as well. Monster Hunter Wilds is a fantastic video game, but one of its biggest problems is that it's not chock full of content in the same way that its predecessors are, thanks to, you know, existing for a very long time with continuous support and even expansions that make them these huge beasts that are very different from what they were on day one. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is like that. Sure, it launched with a bunch of content, but since then, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just a huge package of both quantity and quality. Mario Kart World is essentially the launch of a new platform, and it just can't compete with what is already there for the finished state of the previous one over 10 years. And normally, while many people do want to jump into the latest, hottest thing, even if it is probably, with these sorts of cases on day one, less of a complete or even exciting game compared to its previous iteration, you jump in excited to be there or to jump in for the full ride of getting the experience as it comes out, as things get updated and more content appears. Now, some people already don't like that. And this experience, Mario Kart World, is tied to a pretty huge price tag for both the game and a brand new console to jump into an experience like it. As the foundation of a brand new, potentially 10-year run, of Mario Kart World, I think what's here is really good. I have some nitpicks. There are things that I don't enjoy as much, from UI stuff down to the fact that I don't think that the open world, for as immersive as it is and how much I do think it is impactful, isn't really taken advantage of. I think that a hub-like open world structure similar to something like Crash Team Racing or Diddy Kong Racing would have benefited this game greatly in giving you a more direct and immediate excuse for you to jump into the open world, explore, and do the P-Switch challenges and all the things that are there, because there are incentives to do it. It's just that the game never really puts it in front of you. You kind of have to dig into the menu and then start free roam, and then you can explore the open world. So sometimes it feels like that was just an afterthought or a filler to, you know, accommodate the new idea of driving from one course to another, which is one of the biggest pros, in my opinion. It keeps the overall gameplay fresh, and the fact that you're going to end up doing a lot of courses and their transitional sections in reverse, or discover new ones as you take different paths that maybe aren't in the cups themselves, or that don't show up as often in a multiplayer lobby when you're hopping around. All of that is cool and immensely helps with replayability and keeping the game fresh for years to come. And again, feels like a fantastic foundation for things, but that doesn't mean that having a foundation of what will be a game that will compete with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe locked behind this huge price tag is something that you should invest in today. Much like with that Monster Hunter example and plenty of other games like that, you're just going to be more rewarded for your patience with an inevitable complete edition. Whatever it may be, you're just going to get a better experience down the line. And by that point, potentially, you're going to have that experience on a console that might be cheaper, might come with a better bundle, or might have more games that really want to sell you on it. That means that for as much as I like Mario Kart World, and I think it's charming, and I have just a lot of positive things to say, and I have enjoyed my time with it and intend to spend some time with family and friends playing more of it, I don't think it's a system seller, because we keep forgetting that a lot of games like this are now games as a service or platforms for content down the line, and this is just day one. So yes, I do think Mario Kart World is pretty great, but also, no, I don't think it's worth the $80 asking price, or in some other countries, I have friends in Europe that have seen prices of €90 for it, which is crazy. I don't think it's worth that. And I don't think it's worth the price tag of the Switch 2, even if you wanted to consider it a $50 game, because you're getting it in a bundle. None of that is to take away the fact that what is there I really enjoy, and I think it's a great game. It's just that the deck is kind of stacked against it. Now, obviously, if you are picking up a Switch 2 for one of the reasons we'll discuss in a moment, yes, get the Mario Kart World one. Duh. Like, because, like, otherwise, like, why? But really, a lot of the reasons why I don't think you should pick up Mario Kart World are tied to why I think you shouldn't pick up a Switch 2. At least not right now. This surprisingly large and really well built and kind of really nice console here is a pretty big departure from the Nintendo Switch. And many of those things are not positive, actually. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a big, non-OLED, but still very beautiful screen, heavy, powerful, portable hybrid console. It is also considerably more expensive than the Nintendo Switch, even if you want to adjust for inflation. What you really have to look at is cost of living across the many different countries and their currencies. It's a much more difficult thing to calculate. And yes, we can talk about what matters most are games, but at a console's launch, the price does matter to a lot of people. The Nintendo Switch 2 feels much more like a premium tech luxury product than a lot of the toys that Nintendo has put out before. And I don't say that as a negative. I mean that more as an intentional design choice to make them feel fun. And while I do have a lot of positive things to say about the console itself, let me get some of the negatives out of the way. It's not an OLED screen, even if it is HDR and I'm an HDR evangelist. I think these joysticks are bad. I do not like them. I do not enjoy them. They are not Hall effect. We know what Nintendo does with the previous Joy-Cons. I don't expect them to last. I don't expect them to hold up over time. And they are incredibly expensive controllers. Buttons though, buttons are nice. And so are the bumpers and the trigger. And of course, I hate the chat button. I hate the chat button and everything it represents. I hate that there's a button gated behind getting a subscription. But I do like the size of it. I like the weight of it. I like how premium it feels. I love the little magnets. This is undeniably very satisfying to do. You just kind of, oh, that click right there. That's good. But a lot of that comes with the fact that it is no longer this accessible toy thing. I think the way that I view it is that the Nintendo Switch was the first time that Nintendo, in a very smart decision that I thought it was very smart, and obviously the market has proven that it was, Nintendo consolidated their portable efforts and their console efforts under one roof. It's a console you can take on the go, and that means we're also consolidating our software. All of our teams are now making games for the one Switch. That also meant that they had to strike a balance for the fans of Nintendo that were used to spending a certain amount of money on portable consoles and on the portable games, and the people who were used to the full console experience. And I think they struck a very good balance with the Switch, its price point, and how they got there when it comes to the materials of it and its overall feel. And they hammered home both of the other directions by having the Switch OLED as a more premium experience and the Switch Lite as more of this just straight up toy experience that felt much more comfortable to give to like small children, or something to have as a secondary Switch, or just the type of portable console. And they started from that very solid middle ground, both in construction and in pricing. The Switch 2 feels like they're starting on the premium end of the spectrum. This is not a console that I would like to give young children for Christmas. It's big, it's heavy, it feels fragile, and it's expensive enough that it would worry me tremendously if they broke it. Speaking more from people who are older and more invested in games, I think that the Switch landed at a price point and tech-wise in a location where a lot of people that mainly gamed on PC or mainly gamed on PlayStation or Xbox saw it as a great purchase to have a portable and also have access to those Nintendo first-party games. I think that now the Switch 2, in both its production and its price point and what it's aiming for, is not looking to be a second console. It's not looking to be the type of thing where I know people that own a Switch OLED and a Switch Lite, and they have one at like their parents' house and they have one in their bag. No, this is a different ball game. This is the premium one, and you want to kind of treat it as such. And I don't like the shift towards it. I think that it is a mistake in the sense that you're pricing out and kind of just pushing out a lot of your dedicated customer base. By the own admission of people like Doug Bowser, if you don't like the price of the Switch 2, they have a console for you. It's called the Switch 1. And despite the condescending tone of it, what I really think Doug Bowser would have liked to say in that situation is that we have a console for you. We're gonna have a Switch 2 Lite coming up soon because we know what part of our customer base we're alienating with the choices we're making. Now, for a lot of people, that description of the Switch 2 feeling like just a more premium, more luxury product than the Switch 1 is just gonna be great news. And I'm very happy for you. At the end of the day, you make your own decisions. I just don't like it from a business perspective or from the general perspective of losing sight of video games kind of having options for everybody. But to summarize, the hardware overall is nice. It's a nice console to hold in your hands, but it still has failings that I don't appreciate, like that OLED screen or like those joysticks, the price of the Joy-Cons, where I didn't feel very bad about giving like kids a Switch. I would not feel good handing a Switch 2 over to a kid. And it overall feels like Nintendo is prioritizing that luxury aspect of it. So here's the problem with that. If it's meant to be a primary console and not like the secondary Switch you buy along with your PlayStation, if it's not meant to be a Christmas present to kids, if it's priced and it feels like this premium product, that's great for the people with that amount of disposable income, but what about the hundreds of millions of people who actually have to care about how they spend their money? And the answer is, at the moment, given the software offering, people who are very invested into the Switch ecosystem. Now, I'm not saying big Nintendo fans. Switch ecosystem. Here at launch, the Switch 2 has some interesting offerings. I'm surprised to say that stuff like Rune Factory Guardians of Ozma is a big deal. A lot of it is just third-party support and new games that weren't available on the Switch but were on other consoles, and now they can finally make the jump to the Switch 2. Some other notable stuff like Fast Fusion, which is the sequel to Fast RMX. That's a great $20 downloadable exclusive. And of course, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But aside from Mario Kart World, even a lot of the upcoming software, things like Metroid Prime 4 or Pokemon Legends ZA, are coming out on Switch 1. You don't need to upgrade to a Switch 2 to get that, and if you wait it out, like I said before, you might find it more attractive when there's like a lot more games. It's the fact that this console is very much just the Nintendo Switch 1, but stronger. The UI is basically identical. A lot of the things and how they work are just basically identical. The big changes are things like, hey, now you can pay for the subscription and get access to Nintendo's version of Discord. Cool. But that also means that the compatibility with things from the Switch is a very big deal and a notable part of this. If you are the type of person that lives around the Switch, some of those people I mentioned before, you run around with, you have a Switch at home and you have one in your bag and you have another one. Your Switch is just a big part of your life, be that because of its hybrid nature. And if that is you, the Switch 2 is for you. You're going to get a ton of upgraded versions of games that you already love, that you're already actively playing, or a huge backlog of games that you either can access or, let's be honest, that you bought and never played, that you can now play better on a better console overall. If that is you, the Switch 2 is a no-brainer because you're going to get a ton of value from it immediately. Otherwise, when we look at the software that the Switch 2 has available on day one, it's not actually very good, and it's not looking to get better with how many games are still going to be coming out on the Switch 1. And this is a tall asking price. And I'm going to talk about the Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour because I did buy it just to talk about it. You're welcome. Because it's going to segue to the final part of this video, which is where this sits in the industry and kind of what's happening overall. The Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour, which I believe is like $8 or $10, something like that, is a crime. It is a crime against the customer. The fact that this is not a free thing that comes packaged in and instead is a big, hey, be excited that you can also play Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour for extra money when you buy a Switch 2, it's not just that it's criminal because it's a tech demo, it's worse. It's a glorified advertisement for the console you just bought. This is a little piece of software where you get to walk around and be informed by people about the details and technology that make the Switch 2 so awesome, so spectacular, and then get to answer quizzes about the information that they just gave you. You get to play glorified tech demos, many of them obsessed with the use of the mouse pointer functionality of the Switch 2, which I don't think works very well and I don't like. Look, I'm a PC gaming nerd. I know how this mouse works. I don't want to use a Joy-Con as a mouse. You are paying for the console to teach you to recognize the difference between 60 FPS and 120 FPS in side-by-side comparison shots. I have never felt more ripped off, and I own a Wii U. Now, it is of course worth mentioning that if what you care about from the Switch 2 isn't the first-party games, and it's more about, hey, I like having a kind of hybrid thing I can take with me, but you're a PC gamer, the Steam Deck is a legitimate competitor both in price and specs, and you're probably going to find a Steam Deck 2 in the not too distant future. So really, the scope of who the Nintendo Switch 2 is for, especially here at launch, keeps narrowing and narrowing and narrowing. But, and for people who know this channel and know a lot of the stuff I cover, this matters a lot. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a very, very bad omen in a way for the future. It's not just that Nintendo suddenly struck us by surprise and upped the overall price of video games and regional pricing is now a mess and just the chaos of just upping the overall price of games. It's that the Nintendo Switch 2 at its price point with how it's positioning its games here at release was a not good price proposition, really. It wasn't good value for money because it was really expensive compared to the competition. And then Xbox raised the price of the Xbox mid-generation. And Sony has done price increases as well. We are living in a world where Sony released a PS5 Pro and that wasn't accompanied by a price decrease of the base model. They released an exorbitantly expensive Pro and raised the price of the base one. Suddenly, the Nintendo Switch 2 went from being the most expensive one of them to the cheapest one of them without new consoles releasing. It almost feels like it's Xbox and PlayStation returning the favor. Like, oh, you pushed for $80 games. We're gonna make your console look cheap by comparison. Let me just raise the price right now. We are living in a world where they are conditioning your behavior to buy consoles on day one because you should be afraid that in 3 years, the same console, despite now being older, more outdated, probably cheaper to produce, will cost you more. In that regard, even though there are a lot of positives to what the Switch 2 does, and on a personal level, not mine, but yours, what it's doing, what I've described in this very video might be exactly up your alley. And there are people, again, narrow scope, but people who will love what the Switch 2 has to offer for them, and it just fits perfectly into their lifestyle. But it is also a sign of video games becoming prohibitively expensive to a lot of people, of not just its price or the price of games, but the price of everything in gaming going up in a way that does not feel proportional to the global economy. And something that just overall further deepens the divide we have as customers with the people who make the things we love. It overall lessens our power as customers, no matter how much they prefer to call us consumers, that's what we are. The Switch 2 is the kickoff point. It sets the stage for an uncertain future for a lot of video games, and especially who they are for. Will the Switch 2 still have the beautiful first-party Nintendo games of exceptional quality that many people would like to discuss online that are worth whatever price they ask for because they are just that much better than what the competition offers at the same price? Yes, it probably will. And if that's what you care for at the end of the day and you're willing to bite the bullet on the price, you do you, be happy, life is too short. But me personally, I'm bothered by these pricing trends. I can't help but be bothered at how tone deaf a lot of the communication and a lot of the way that the Switch 2 is positioned in the market and who it alienates and who it ignores of the customer base, how bad a lot of that stuff is. I can't ignore the fact that Mario Kart World feels like the beginning of a new platform of Mario Kart, and that the expectations for the future of the Switch are very much based in hope. Hope that I think is easy to justify given that Nintendo is Nintendo, but it's not something tangible right now. And so, genuinely, at the end of the day, for as much as I would love to be more excited than I am for a console launch, and no, I'm not here to sensationalize or to join a Nintendo hate bandwagon. I've got a Mario tattoo. Like, trust me, that's not me. I cannot recommend the Switch 2 to pretty much anybody except that very select group of people that have already made the Switch integral in their lives. For you, this is a great thing to jump on day one. For the rest of you, I would very comfortably wait because you're not missing out. It is a completely different thing, while at the same time just being the sequel to the Nintendo Switch. Them's the breaks, and I hope that this video helped inform you if you were considering a purchase or if you wanted some additional perspective on the whole thing. I hope it was entertaining, and I hope it was worth your time and had an interesting conversation there at the end of things I've dug into on the past in the channel and that I will inevitably have to dig into in the future. And if you did, remember to hit that like button, and a huge thanks to a bunch of people in this case. First off, the members of the wall, be they patrons or members here on YouTube who directly support the channel and everything I do. Thank you so much. Huge shout out to everyone for watching. I really do hope that these videos make your life better in some way. And a huge shout out to Display. Nothing to do with like the sponsored section of the video, but it's just they actually make a great product, and it's awesome as a content creator to be able to have like a sponsor of something that's just really cool and that I can just honestly recommend to people and have them, you know, enjoy that. And it's just like a huge win-win. I've been Mug. Thank you so much for watching. Go out there, enjoy video games no matter what, and I'll see you again very soon.